This video is about factoring out the greatest common factor, or GCF. And in this one, we're going to see how we can start undoing some of the things that we did in multiplication. And so we're going to start with one particular step, which is factoring out the GCF. So let's look at some examples. So the wording will be factor. So anytime that we see the word factor, we know that we're going the opposite way of what we learned in all of our multiplication types that we could deal with polynomials. So when I want to factor out a GCF, what I'm looking for is to look at all the terms. So in this case, I have two terms here, and I want to say what is the biggest thing that is common out of both of them. So I want to look at their coefficients, the numbers in there first, 14 and 7, and see if there is a number that goes into both of those. And when we think about that, we think, oh, okay, 7. 7 goes into 14 and 7 goes into 7. Then we look at the variables a and b. They're not like terms, and so there's nothing I can do with the variables. However, if I pull a 7 out of each one, 14 divided by 7 leaves me with 2, and the a stays there. And then 7b divided by 7 leaves me with just 1b. So when I say factor 14a minus 7b, my final answer is 7 times the quantity 2a minus b. And if you notice in this one, this was a distributive property that we just went the other direction with. Next example. Again, we want to factor, and we want 10x cubed plus 8x squared minus 6x. So we have three terms here that we want to look at. The first thing we want to look at is our coefficients, so 10, 8, and 6, and figure out what is the biggest thing that I can pull out of all of those. And in this case, it would be a 2. And then we want to look at our variables. So we have x cubed, x squared, and x. And they all have some amount of x's in each one. And so we want to pick the biggest one that will go into all of them. And so x is the biggest one. So once we do that, then we say what is left over. So if I take 10x cubed divided by 2x. So again, we're looking at this essentially for each term. And 2 goes into 10 5 times, and then x goes into x cubed, x squared. So remember our exponential rules. So x squared is left over. Do the same thing with the next one. 8x squared divided by 2x. So 8 divided by 2 is 4. And then x squared divided by x leaves us with 1x. And then 6 divided by 2 is 3. X divided by x is 1. And so this becomes our final answer. 2x times the quantity 5x squared plus 4x minus 3. Next example. We want to factor again a squared bc plus ab squared c plus abc squared. All right, there's no coefficients, so we just look at each individual variable that's in here. So we're going to look at our a's, we're going to look at our b's, and we're going to look at our c's. And again, we're looking for the biggest thing we can pull out of there that's common. So we look at our a's. We have a squared, an a, and an a. So the biggest thing we can pull out of there is an a. And we look at our b's. We have b, b squared, and b. The biggest thing we can pull out of there is a b. And we look at our c's. We have c, c, and c squared. The biggest thing we can pull out of there is a c. So now we figure out what's left over. If I pull an a, b, and c out of the first term, a squared, b, c, I'm left with an A. If I pull an ABC out of the middle term, AB squared C, I'm left with a B. And if I pull ABC out of ABC squared, I'm left with a C. And so there's our final answer. Last example. We want to factor 48m minus 80n. So we look at our coefficients first, 48 and 80, and then we will look at our variables m and n and see if we can do anything there. So we got to think these are bigger numbers, but we got to think what's the biggest thing that I can pull out of 48 and 80. Now this one might take some trial and error, but what we find out is that each one is divisible by 16. So we're going to pull a 16 out of there. And then we look at our m and our n. There's nothing common there, so that's all there is. So now we want to see what's left over. So 48 divided by 16 leaves us with 3m. And then 80 divided by 16 leaves us with 5n. So that's it for this lesson. If you have questions as you do the lesson that follows this video, then please ask your teacher. Have a great day.